Welcome to the Mood Ring Part 2, Coding Your Ring. In this video, we're going to complete challenge number 8. Challenge number 8 is going to be a little different for us because we're going to be using a temperature sensor as an input device. Prior to this, in all of our challenges, we've been doing output, either output to the color LED on the hub or output of a message to the TI Nspire CX2's display. So today in our challenge we're going to be learning how to construct a temperature object. Then we're going to learn how to use the measurement method to read the temperature from that object. And then lastly, we're going to take that temperature measurement and we're going to assemble it into a string that we can display on the calculator with an appropriate prompt, the actual measurement value, and the units of the temperature in centigrade degrees. Well, I think this is going to be a fun activity and it'll be different from what we've been doing before. And so that'll make it interesting. So take a moment to pause your video and navigate to Challenge 8. It's probably on page 1.11. I'll see you there. Challenge 8. We're going to connect the temperature sensor to N1 and write a program that creates a temperature object named myTemp. You might be thinking to yourself, what the heck is a temperature object? Well, an object is a big idea in computer science, and you'll hear more about it when you take additional computer science classes. But for now, think of an object as maybe a backpack. And in your backpack that you take to school, you might have all sorts of things. For example, you might have, a TI graphing calculator. You may also have a notebook and a bag of pencils and pens and a lunch. Well, that backpack, you could call it my_backpack. And in my_backpack, there's a whole collection of different things that are, they're all related. They're things that you take to school, but there are many different things in that backpack. Similarly, in an object in computer science, they're all related ideas and things, but they can be different. Like, for example, you can have numbers that have decimals that are stored in variables. You can have numbers that don't have decimals that are stored in variables. You can have long lists of names that are stored in a list. You could have actually functions inside of that object that are called methods. And so that object is kind of a large variable that contains a number of related computer science types of things. Well, we'll talk more about objects later, but we're going to create an object and we're going to measure the temperature from that object, and we're going to store it in a value, and then we're going to take that value and display it on the TI Nspire CX2's computer screen. And in addition to just displaying it, we're going to add some prompt to make it readable, and we're going to address the correct units with it. So this is an example of both input and output. We're going to be gaining input from the temperature sensor, and then we're going to be taking that input and putting it into a string that's very readable along with correct units, and then we're going to be outputting it to the screen of the TI Nspire. So a good example of input and output. And we'll use this concept later on as we start to design the user interface for our mood ring. So let's get started with this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next page. Remember, you can do that by either pressing Control, touchpad to the right, or simply by clicking the tab. I kind of like clicking the tab up here at the top. You do whichever one you're most comfortable with. When I do that, it brings me to this picture. And this picture is pretty much what I have right here. Notice that it's plugged into input 1. Right here you'll see input 1. And that's what we're going to be plugging the temperature sensor into. There's only one way for the sensor to plug in. And so I'm going to plug it in. And then I'll also have my actual sensor plugged in. This temperature sensor, this little chip right here, that's the actual temperature sensor. It's a thermometer. It's a digital thermometer. And the actual thermometer detection surface is actually the bottom of this. So when this is kind of up against the pad of your finger, it'll register the temperature of your finger. You see, the pad of your finger has a lot of blood in it, and so that circulation is kind of the temperature of your core body. If you were to mount it, say, on the back of your finger here, where it's kind of bony, although it might look nice there, it may not receive the temperature of your body so well. So mounting that device kind of right here on your finger is probably the best location. Now, I don't have a fuzzy wire to build a ring with, but I think you should. And so try to use the fuzzy wire and the temperature sensor and try to fashion a ring that'll slip over your finger that looks much like this over here. Okay, let's go ahead and pause the video and I'll let you build your temperature sensor, and then I'm going to let you warm up to the idea of coding our program. So pause your video now, and I'll see you in just a moment when you're finished. Now that you have your mood ring assembled, let's go to the next page because I'm in the mood to code. I'm going to go Control, touchpad to the right. And here I am at a blank Python editor screen. Remember, the first thing I need to do is to import that TI-Hub module. So I'll press Menu, number 8, and number 1 to import. Great. I'm going to press Enter one more time just to space my code a little bit and make it readable. Now, the first thing I need to do in my code is to construct the temperature object. Now that's just a fancy term to say I'm going to write a statement that builds my object, kind of my backpack, but this one's going to be a temperature sensor, and I'm going to give it a name. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to press Menu, and again, number 8, Hub. And this time I'm going to add an input device. This is a little different. So number 3. And the input device that I'm interested in is right here, temperature, number 4. Notice that the variable placeholder is highlighted, so I need to give it a name. I'm going to call this my underscore temp. Underscore is used often in Python to separate two or more words in a variable name to make the variable name more readable and meaningful. Readable and meaningful variable names are an important aspect of coding. It helps to keep it all straight in the programmer's head. So I'm going to call this my. And now to get that underscore character, I'm going to click on this button down here in the right that has a number of often used symbols that pop up in a menu. I select them by clicking on the touchpad and highlighting the symbol of interest, there's the underscore, and pressing the Enter to paste it into the text. Now I need temp for temperature. It's an abbreviation. There we go. Now I'll press the Tab key and I'll choose Input 1. I'm still inside the quote and the parentheses, so be sure to get outside of that. This is a frequent mistake. So touchpad once to the right and twice to the right and enter to the new line. Now I've created the temperature object and I've called that temperature object my temp. So like the backpack named my backpack, this is my temperature object. And this temperature object has a method in it called measurement. And I want to use that measurement method to retrieve the current temperature from the temperature sensor over here and bring it into my Python program over here. So to do that, I first need a variable name for that temperature. I'll just call it T to keep it simple, temperature. And temperature is going to be equal to, I'm going to press my equals key right here. Now, to get the object named my temperature, all I have to do is press this var key right here. And look, there's my temperature. That is because I defined it in the statement just above. Now to paste that into the editor, I'll press Enter. Now, in object-oriented programming, the contents of the object can be accessed with the period, or sometimes called dot. So I press the dot here, which is really kind of a decimal. And so I'm going to press this period and notice that the method measurement pops up. Now this is nothing that we created or wrote. It's part of the temperature object. And so now I'll just press Enter to paste it. Okay, good. Now let's take a look at this statement now that we've constructed it all. It says T equals my temperature. That's the object that we created. And it's accessing the method called measurement inside of that object. And once it gets that measurement, it's going to return that value into the variable named T. So T is where the actual number for the temperature resides. And it comes from the measurement of the myTemp object. Okay, let's go to the next line. And now I'm going to display this on the screen. Well, we've done this before when we displayed all of the mood messages in a previous video. So to do that, again, I'll press Menu, TI Hub, Commands, and Text At is the one that I'm interested in, number 2. Now it asks me for the row. I'll go ahead and just kind of move it down a little bit so that it's just not right at the tippy top. Let's just put it at 4. Now I'll press Tab, and I want to give this a meaningful name so that people know what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and say temperature equals. So I'll go ahead and hit Shift T. And you go ahead and enter in yours now. Temperature equals. Now I need to take this statement, which is what's called a string. And you know it's a string because it's all letters and it's inside of quotes. So I'm going to take this string and I want to join it with a string representation of the temperature T. To do that, I'm going to go outside the quotes and I'm going to use the plus operator, addition. Just like adding two numbers, 2 plus 2 equals 4, you can also add strings so you can join two sentences together. But hold the phone. T is not a string. It's not a character. It's a number. So I have to convert it into a string. So let's do that. I'll press the menu key. And I'm going to go to number 4, built-ins. And down toward the bottom, number 5 is type. And number 4 is str. What this does is it converts what's inside the parentheses into a string. And what do I want to convert into a string? Well, T, my temperature. Okay, well, cool. Now I want to go outside the quote, and I want to add an appropriate unit now. So I'm going to do this whole thing again. I'll press the plus, and this time I'm not going to use numbers, I'm just going to use symbols. So I need to represent that this is a string by using quotes. So I'll press the quotes key, it's right here, it's the control of multiplication. And now I'm going to put in the degree symbol. Hey, I remember seeing the degree symbol down here under the symbol key. So I'm going to press that key down at the bottom again. And I'm going to hit arrow to the right once, twice, 3 times. That's the degree symbol. Notice it's kind of superscripted. And this represents that it's a degree measurement. And the unit is centigrade. Centigrade, centi means 1/100. Just like there's 100 cents, C-E-N-T, in a dollar, well, there's 100 centigrade degrees between freezing and boiling. So that's done usually with an uppercase, so I'll use the shift and the letter C. There's my uppercase. Now the last thing I need to do here is to close the quotes. Notice over here I don't have a quote. It's just one open quote, and I need to close the quote after. So that's control and multiplication to quote it. Good. Now, if I press tab, I can choose where to align this. I'm going to go ahead and align this to the left, and so I'll choose enter. Okay, great. Well, get outside of the statement by pressing click to the right twice and enter. And it looks like I've got a little program here. Again, let's review. The first line of code is the construction of the temperature object method of my temp called measurement, and stores that value of temperature into a variable named T. The third line of code assembles a string. This string is made up of 3 parts. 1, the prompt that says temperature equals. 2, the conversion of the temperature value into a string. This is necessary to be able to add them together with that red addition sign. And then the third part is the unit, centigrade degrees. So these 3 chunks will be assembled into a single string, and that string will be displayed on row 4 toward the left of the screen. All right. Well, let's run this thing. Do you remember how to do that? I bet you do. Arr! Hey, check it out. It looks like the temperature of my sensor over here is 21.967. Huh. All right. Well, I'm going to try this again. Let's try it again. This time I'll press enter to get out of this. And what I'm going to do is go back to the previous page. I can press the tab 1.13. Here it is. And I'm going to press Control R again to run this program. But before I do, I'm going to take my temperature sensor and I'm going to hold it between my fingers and see if it will become warmer than just 21.9. All right, so I'm warming it up. The heat from my finger is flowing into the temperature sensor and raising the temperature of that little chip. And let's see what it registers now. So I'm just going to hit Control R again. And look, it's up to 27 now. Okay, great. I'm going to press the Enter key to return. Notice that it returns me to the shell. The shell is a different page than the program. Remember, the program is over here on 1.13. You know what? I can run the program again from the shell. In fact, if I go to Menu, I can go to Tools, and you'll see that the first choice is Rerun Last Program. But hold the phone. It says that I can do this with Control and R. Holy smokes, that's pretty cool. Well, let's run it once from the menu, and then we'll try Control R. So I'll press Enter, and there it is. Hey, it's cooled off a little bit. Remember, it was 27? Okay. Press Enter to get out. And let's just try Control R again. Oh, there it is. Cool. I'll press Enter again, Control R again, and there you can see it's starting to cool off, 23.9. Enter, Control R, 23.8, Enter. Let's do this. Let's kind of wave it in the air a little bit. And Control R, 23.4. Cool. It's not cool. I have to do this to make it cool. Great. Well, I've had fun making a temperature sensor with you, and I hope you've got it working too. So take a moment to finish your code, and I'll meet you back here when you've finished writing your code. Try measuring a couple different temperatures. Well, I hope you got your program working just so. Hey, this concludes our video, so stay tuned for Activity 10 up next. I'll see you there.